The first contraction hit me at the exact moment my mother-in-law locked the big black gate from inside the compound. Even now, when I think about that night, it is not the pain I remember first. It is the sound of the lock, that hard metal clang,
Help me,
final,
please!
cold, heartless. I was
Somebody
standing
open
outside
the
in the rain,
gate!
8 months
I need help!
pregnant. My wrapper soaked through, my slippers gone in the flood water, running past the house. My water had just broken on her neat porch tiles, and it was sliding down my legs, mixing with the rain. I banged on the gate with both hands. Mama Patricia, please, open the gate. Please, the baby is coming. Before we continue, if you are new to my channel, please like this story, listen to the very end, subscribe to my channel, share this story with your friends, comment where you are listening from, and also share your thoughts about this story. Let's continue. She was inside, standing behind the living room window, arms folded like nothing serious was happening. The chandelier light reflected off her gold earrings while thunder rolled over the house. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She just looked at me and shouted, "You think I'm a fool? You want to stain my son's house with your drama? Go and call the man who gave you that pregnancy, not my David." Another contraction slammed into my back and I dropped against the gate, crying into the storm. My husband was in Lagos for work. My phone was inside on the kitchen counter, right where she had told me to leave it. The security man had been sent away earlier that day. It was just me, the rain, and a woman who had hated me from the first day I entered her son's life. To understand how a pregnant woman ended up outside her own home in labor, you have to understand that some houses do not become prisons overnight. It happens slowly, one insult at a time, one humiliation at a time, one compromise at a time. I met David 3 years earlier at a youth conference in Gra. I was 26, working customer care at a bank on Aba Road, living in a small self-contained apartment with my younger sister. At that point in my life, I was not looking for a perfect man. I was looking for peace. I wanted to be loved gently. I wanted respect. I wanted a home where I could breathe. David seemed like that kind of man. He was calm, neat, soft-spoken. He remembered little things about me. He prayed before eating. He opened doors. He once told me on our third date, "Grace, there is something strong about you. Quiet, but strong." I believed him because I wanted to. His mother joined us on our fourth date. She invited herself without warning, sat down like she owned the whole place, ordered pepper soup, and looked me over from head to toe. Her smile was thin, controlled. She said, "So, you are Grace. David says you work in a bank. That is good. My son needs a wife who knows how to keep a home, not one who is always doing makeup on Instagram." I laughed because I thought she was joking. Or maybe I wanted to believe she was. We got married 8 months later. The wedding was small because Patricia said big weddings attract enemies. She chose the hall. She chose the caterer. She chose the color of my bridal train. Every time I tried to have an opinion, she had a stronger one. David would squeeze my hand and whisper, "Just let her have her way. After the wedding, it will just be us." But it was never just us. After the wedding, David said we should stay in the family house in Old GRA for 1 year and save money before renting our own place. The house was large, with 3 flats, a functioning generator, and boys' quarters at the back. Patricia lived downstairs. We lived upstairs. From the first week, she had a key to our flat. The morning after we came back from our honeymoon, I woke up and found her in my kitchen rearranging my pots. "In this house," she said, "we don't keep onions in the fridge and don't put too much seasoning in food. My son has a sensitive stomach." I smiled. I greeted her properly. I told myself respect would soften her. Instead, it became my daily routine to do something and then watch her undo it. I would cook, she would taste it and say it was too salty. I would wash David's shirts. She would wash them again and say I didn't know how to wash properly. I would clean. She would follow behind me with her own broom and mortar. A woman who cannot keep a home cannot keep a husband. At first, David noticed. He would say, Mama, leave Grace alone. Then Patricia changed tactics. She stopped attacking me in front of him and started working on him in private. She would call him when I was at work and cry on the phone. She would say I was rude, that I left the gas on, that I was too friendly with the security man. Small lies, soft lies, emotional lies. By the time I got home, David's face would already be hard. My friend Sarah from the bank warned me early. She said, Grace, this woman is dangerous. Start keeping record of things. But I had been raised to believe that patience could fix almost anything. I thought if I stayed respectful, if I stayed quiet, if I kept trying, one day Patricia would see my heart. Rose, the young house girl who had worked for them for years, became my only comfort in that house. She would whisper things when nobody was around. Auntie Grace, don't mind madam. She did the same thing to the first wife of Uncle Michael's son. She likes control. Rose helped me in small ways. She saved food Patricia threw away just so she could later claim I had refused to cook. She carried messages. She watched. After the first year, Patricia's questions changed. She no longer complained mostly about my cooking or cleaning. She started asking for grandchildren. Grace, when will you give me a child? She would say loudly in front of visitors. David is my only son. I'm not getting younger. We were trying. We were trying seriously. Every month I prayed. Every month my period came. Every month I cried quietly in the bathroom so David wouldn't hear me. We even went to a hospital in Lagos where the doctor told us both of us were medically fine and stress might be the issue. Patricia went around church telling people the doctor had found a hidden infection from my past life. That was when David began to change in a way that scared me. He stopped defending me. He became tired every time I tried to explain how his mother treated me. He started comparing me to other women. Mama said Jessica just got promoted, he once said at dinner. Jessica was Dr. Collins' daughter, pretty, loud, very polished. Patricia had started inviting her over for family prayer meetings. Jessica laughed too easily at Patricia's jokes and made herself at home in ways I never could. One Sunday, I came down after church and found Jessica in my kitchen, wearing an apron, stirring soup with Patricia like they were already family. Patricia looked at me and said, "See a proper wife. She doesn't wait to be told what to do." I went upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and cried until my chest hurt. That night, I told David, I feel like a stranger in my own marriage. He didn't even look at me properly. He just sighed and said, Grace, you're too emotional. My mother is old. Just manage her. That sentence did something to me. Manage her. I had married to be loved, not managed. But somehow, my whole life had become management. Managing insults, managing disrespect, managing loneliness, managing a marriage that had started to feel like I was the only one carrying it. By the second year, David started traveling more for work. Lagos, Warri, Abuja, sometimes gone for 2 weeks. When he was away, Patricia ruled the house like a woman who had finally been given permission to drop the act. She would switch off our Wi-Fi. She would tell Rose not to help me. She would lock the deep freezer so I couldn't cook what I wanted. She turned every simple thing into punishment. I started disappearing inside myself. When I looked in the mirror, I no longer saw the cheerful woman from the bank. I saw someone always bracing herself, always apologizing, always swallowing words before they came out. Then, 3 months before that stormy night, my period didn't come. I told no one at first. On my way back from work, I bought a test kit and used it in the bathroom. 2 pink lines appeared almost immediately. I sat on that toilet seat shaking. After 2 years of shame, whispers, church gossip, and silent tears, I was pregnant. I wanted to tell David in a beautiful way. I wanted one soft moment in a marriage that had become too rough. I called Sarah and whispered the news. She screamed so loudly I had to pull the phone from my ear. I told her I would wait until David came back from Abuja on Friday. I would cook his favorite meal, put the test in a small gift box, and surprise him. What I didn't know was that Patricia was on the staircase, listening. That evening she walked into my room without knocking and shut the door behind her. Her face was calm, but it was the dangerous kind of calm. So, she said, "You are pregnant." I forced a smile. "Yes, Mama. I wanted to tell David first." She cut me off at once. "Don't try to use pregnancy to trap my son. We don't know who gave you that child. David has been traveling. In this family, we do DNA." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Ma, how can you say that? She adjusted her wrapper like she was discussing the weather. "I have seen girls like you. You think a baby will secure your position. It won't. My son deserves better. Jessica is still available." Then she walked out and left my door wide open. I didn't sleep that night. I held my stomach and cried quietly into the pillow. I kept telling myself David would be different. David would be happy. David would shut this down. He came home on Friday evening. I had cooked. I had cleaned. I had a little blue gift box in my pocket. My heart was beating so hard I thought he would hear it before he even stepped into the house. Then I heard another voice with a woman's laugh. I came downstairs and stopped. The dining table was already set. Patricia sat at the head like a queen receiving guests. David sat quietly in his travel clothes. And beside him, serving food, was Jessica. Patricia looked up at me and smiled that thin smile of hers. "Good," she said. "You are here. David has made a decision for the peace of this house, and I support him." David still would not look at me. He kept staring at his plates. I stood there, one hand inside my pocket, holding the proof that I was finally going to be a mother, while another woman stood at my table in my home, smiling like she belonged there, and in that moment, I knew everything was about to get worse. I stayed there on the stairs for a few seconds, just looking at them. Patricia repeated herself, louder this time, almost proudly. "Jessica will be staying with us for a while. You are a career woman, Grace. You don't know how to run this home properly. Jessica understands our ways." Jessica smiled politely and dropped a piece of chicken onto David's plate as if that settled anything. Something inside me became very still. Not rage, not panic, just clarity. I walked down the stairs, took the small blue box from my pocket, and placed it in the middle of the table. David looked up at last. "What is this?" "Open it," I said. He did. The moment he saw the pregnancy test and the scan appointment card, his whole face changed. "Grace," he whispered, "are you pregnant?" I nodded. He shot to his feet so fast, his chair nearly tipped over. He hugged me tightly, his voice shaking. "Thank you, Jesus, thank you." For a few seconds, it felt like the world had gone quiet. It was just me and him and the child we had wanted for so long. But Patricia was still there. Patricia was always there. She clapped once, slowly. "Well, praise God, finally." Jessica picked up her handbag not long after that and left. But the damage had already been done. She had been brought into my home deliberately, and everyone knew it. That night, David was sweet again. He held my stomach like he had already fallen in love with the baby. He apologized for what he called the Jessica misunderstanding. He said his mother had only suggested bringing someone around to help reduce stress in the house. He promised me things would change. I wanted to believe him. Maybe I was desperate enough to believe him. Patricia did change, but not in a good way. She simply changed methods. The next morning, she came upstairs with tea and a fake softness in her voice. "My daughter, you must rest. Pregnancy is delicate." By afternoon, she had already told half her women's fellowship group that I was pregnant and that people should pray against manipulation in marriage. By evening, She brought up DNA testing again, this time while touching my belly as if she cared. For peace of mind, she said. Once the baby is born, we will test. David did not tell her to stop. He only said, Mama, not now. That became his pattern. Never a firm no. Only delay, only avoidance, only weakness dressed up as peace. Jessica didn't disappear either. Patricia moved her from guest to helper. She gave her access to the boys' quarters and started calling her useful because she was a pharmacist and could help monitor my drugs. Before long, Jessica was back in our kitchen, back at breakfast, back in evening prayers, back in the spaces that should have been mine. Pregnancy should have brought me peace. Instead, I became more controlled than ever. Patricia monitored what I ate. No this, no that. Too much pepper would harm the baby. Cold water would make the baby too big. Fish was suddenly suspicious. Everything was forbidden unless she approved it first. Rose secretly brought me bread and sardines because I was constantly hungry. When Sarah came to visit one Saturday, she took one look at me and frowned. Grace, what is this? You have lost weight. I broke down in her car and told her everything. She listened without interrupting, then recorded a voice note on her phone and said, Keep records. If anything happens to you, people will know. The only other person who seemed to see through Patricia clearly was Uncle Michael, her younger brother-in-law. He came from Abuja for a burial and stayed in the house for 2 nights. He watched Patricia insult me at dinner. He noticed the way Jessica hovered around. Later that night, he met me near the generator house and spoke quietly. This house has history, he said. I asked what he meant. He told me about Helen. According to him, David's late father had not built the house alone. His younger sister Helen had sent a lot of the money from London years before. But when David's father died, Patricia changed documents, pushed Helen out, poisoned the family against her, and acted like the whole house belonged to her. Helen is the only person Patricia fears, Uncle Michael said. She knows too much. I had never heard Helen's name in that house before. Patricia had erased her like she had never existed. Still, I kept the name in my heart. For a while, my pregnancy gave David and me something almost normal. At 4 months, we went for the anatomy scan together. The doctor told us it was a boy. David cried again, bought a small blue teddy bear, and for 2 weeks acted like the man I had married. Then Patricia started again. She brought in a pastor who claimed I needed deliverance because the baby was sitting strangely. She made me drink bitter mixtures I didn't trust. She woke the whole house for loud prayers at dawn, saying things like, every child that is not of this bloodline, be exposed. It was madness, and it was exhausting. At work, my blood pressure started rising. My boss noticed how tired I looked and advised me to begin maternity leave early. I was relieved at first. Then I remembered home was not safe either. At 7 months, I came back from a checkup and found Patricia and Jessica inside my room going through my things. Patricia had my scan photo in her hand. She looked at it and sneered. So you have started buying things and celebrating. Until DNA is done, no one celebrates bastards in this family. Something in me hardened that day. I walked over, took the scan from her hand, and said quietly, This is my child. You will not curse him. She laughed in my face. That night, I told David what happened. He looked tired, distracted. Instead of dealing with it, he told me he had been selected for a 2-week leadership training in Lagos. If he did well, there might be a promotion afterward. I stared at him. Now? When I'm 7 months pregnant. He took my hands and said all the right words in the wrong moment. It's just 2 weeks. It's for our future. Mama is here. Jessica is here. Rose is here. You'll be fine. I told him I did not feel safe. He kissed my forehead and called me hormonal. Patricia heard the conversation and came in smiling the next morning. Go with peace, she told him. Your wife is in good hands. The day David left, The sky was already heavy with rain. He hugged me at the gate, kissed my forehead, touched my stomach, and promised he would call. The moment he was gone, Patricia took over completely. That same afternoon, she claimed there was a plumbing problem upstairs and said I would sleep downstairs for safety. The room she gave me was really an old store near the generator area. It had a thin mattress on the floor, no proper ventilation, and smelled of diesel. When I objected, she said, "Do you want to climb stairs and lose the baby?" Then she took my phone from the kitchen counter. "Too much phone radiation is not good for the baby," she said. "If David calls, I will tell you." That night I lay on that mattress, 8 months pregnant, listening to movements in the ceiling and rain building in the distance. I put my hands over my stomach and whispered to my baby that I would protect him, that somehow we would survive this house. Sometime after the pain started. It was not ordinary discomfort. It was sharp, deep, and wrapping. I felt warm, liquid spreading beneath me. My water had broken. I struggled to my feet and stumbled to the door. It was locked from the outside. I started banging. "Mama, Mama, Patricia, please open. Something is wrong." Footsteps came. A torchlight beam appeared under the door. Then the lock opened halfway and Patricia looked at me through the small gap. I was crying by then. "Please, my water broke. I need hospital." She shone the light on my wet wrapper, then on my face. Instead of helping me, she hissed. "So the drama has started," she said. "At 8 months, you think you can fake labor and drag my son back from Lagos. Sleep there. When it is real, we will know." Then she shut the door and locked it again. I heard her tell Jessica in the corridor, "Leave her. She is acting." I slid down onto the floor and understood something clearly for the first time. This woman was not just cruel. She was willing to let me die. I do not know how long I sat on that floor in the dark. The contractions kept coming harder, closer, lower. My wrapper was wet. The mattress was wet. The rain on the roof was so loud it swallowed every sound except my own breathing and my own fear. I banged until my hands hurt. "Mama, Patricia, please, please, in God's name." From somewhere beyond the door, her voice came back cold and sharp. "Shout very well. Let your husband hear you from Lagos." It was Rose who saved me. Quiet, frightened Rose. She waited until Patricia and Jessica went back to the sitting room. Then she sneaked to the store with a spare key. Her hands were trembling so badly she dropped it once before managing to unlock the door. "Auntie Grace," she whispered, already crying. "Stand up, please." I tried. Another contraction hit and I screamed into her shoulder. That scream brought Patricia running. To this day, I can still see her face as she looked at me. Not concerned, not shocked, annoyed, disgusted. I held my belly and begged, "Please, take me to the hospital." Instead of answering, she turned on Rose and slapped her hard. "Shut up," she snapped when the girl tried to explain there was blood. Then Patricia grabbed my arm and dragged me down the corridor. Jessica stood there with her phone in her hand, watching. Patricia hauled me through the front door, across the porch, and out toward the gate. Rain was pouring so heavily it felt like the sky had split open. The street was full of flood water. The cold hit my skin instantly. Then she shoved me outside the gate. "Go and call the man who gave you that pregnancy," she said. "You will not bring your curse into my house." And she locked it. That sound again, the lock. I fell into the dirty water on my knees, outside my own marital home. In labor, in the middle of a storm, I screamed until my throat burned. I called on God. I called for help. I called for my dead mother, like a child. I gripped the gate bars every time a contraction came, trying not to collapse fully into the flood water. But the night was loud, and the street was empty. Then headlights appeared through the rain. A black Range Rover moved slowly through the flooded street and stopped in front of me. A driver jumped out first, then opened the back door. A woman stepped out under an umbrella. She looked to be in her late 50s, elegant without trying, clean white shirt, simple jewelry, calm face, the kind of woman whose presence changes a space. She crashed down beside me without caring that the flood water was soaking her clothes. "My dear," she said gently, "what happened?" I could barely answer. "Please, my baby." Then she looked up at the gate, the house, the nameplate, the light still on inside. Her expression changed. "Whose house is this?" she asked. "Patricia," I gasped. "David's mother. She locked me out." The woman froze. "David," she repeated. "David who?" I gave his full name. Something flashed in her eyes. Pain, shock, recognition. She turned immediately to her driver. "Carry her now. We are going to the hospital. Call Dr. Emeka. Tell him Helen is on the way." Helen. The name Uncle Michael had given me. They lifted me into the back seat. The warmth of the car almost made me sob harder. Helen sat beside me, held my hand, and kept speaking to me in a calm voice while making rapid phone calls. At the hospital, her money and her authority moved everything fast. No one delayed. No one asked foolish questions. They put me on a bed, checked the baby, checked my pressure, started an IV, and admitted me immediately. "You are in labor," the doctor said. "Your blood pressure is dangerously high. You should have been brought in earlier." Helen stayed. She did not leave me. She stood by my bed like a woman who had decided I was hers to protect. While the nurses worked, she told me the truth in pieces. Patricia was her late brother's wife. Years ago, she had helped fund the house in Port Harcourt. After her brother's death, Patricia had turned the family against her, lied to David about her, and pushed her out completely. Helen had built a successful life in Lagos and stayed away, but she had never stopped knowing that something about that house was wrong. When she said, "She told David I was dead, didn't she?" I nodded. Helen gave a short, bitter laugh. "That sounds like Patricia." Back at the house, Rose had done one more brave thing. She had stolen Patricia's phone long enough to call David. It was almost 4 a.m. David later told me he had been unable to sleep in his hotel room. He said his chest felt heavy and his spirit was restless. When Rose reached him, she was crying so hard he could barely understand her, but he got enough. "Oga David, come back. Madam has pushed Auntie Grace outside. She is in labor." He called Patricia immediately. She answered calmly and lied to him. Said I was fine. Said Rose was dramatic. Said he should focus on his training. For once, he heard the lie. He got into his car and started driving back to Port Harcourt through the rain before dawn. At the hospital, things got worse before they got better. My contractions intensified. The baby was in distress. The doctors decided I needed an emergency C-section. Just before they wheeled me into surgery, David arrived. He looked half mad with fear. Soaked, unshaven, eyes red. When he saw me on the bed, he broke. He dropped to his knees and gripped my hand. "Grace, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Then he looked up and saw Helen. For a second, neither of them moved. "Auntie Helen," he whispered. Helen stepped closer, her eyes already full. "David." He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. Because in a way, he was. He had been told for years that she was gone. The doctor interrupted that moment because there was no more time to waste. David signed the consent form with shaking hands. He kissed my forehead. Helen stood beside him. And the last thing I saw before they took me into theater was both of them praying. When I woke up, the first sound I heard was a baby crying. My son. He was tiny and perfect and alive. A nurse smiled at me and said, "Congratulations, Mommy. You have a boy." I cried from somewhere deep inside myself. After everything, after the insults, the loneliness, the fear, I had carried life through all of it. My son was here. David was crying too when they wheeled me into recovery. Helen held the baby in a blue blanket and looked at him like she was looking at a miracle. Then Dr. Emeka came in carrying a file. His face was serious. "Mother and baby are stable," he said. "But there is something you need to see." He placed the file down carefully. Helen opened it first. As she read, the color drained from her face. Then she looked at David and said quietly, "Your mother did not just lie to you. She stole your identity." Before any of us could even react, we heard shouting at the hospital entrance. Patricia had found us. By the time Patricia burst into the recovery ward, her voice had already reached us before her body did. "Where is my grandson? Where is that girl?" Jessica was with her, trying to push through the nurses as if she still belonged in our family story. Security stopped them at the door, but Patricia saw enough. She saw me in the hospital bed holding my child. She saw David beside me. She saw Helen standing there. Her face twisted instantly. "You!" she shouted at Helen. "So you are behind this?" Helen did not raise her voice. That was the difference between them. Patricia used noise to control a room. Helen used truth. "Patricia," Helen said, "sit down. It is time." David turned to his mother, confused and shaking. "Mama, how did you even find us?" She ignored him and kept glaring at Helen. Then Helen opened the file fully. What came out over the next few minutes felt like the ground opening beneath all of us. The first document was the original will of David's late father. According to that will, the Port Harcourt house, two other properties, and additional land were meant to be held in trust for David until he turned 30. Helen had been named trustee. David stared at the page. "I'm 29, he said weakly. Helen looked at him with sorrow more than anger. "No, David, you are not 29. You are 34. I saw him go completely still. Then Helen showed him his original birth records from London, where he had once lived for treatment as a child. Patricia had changed his official age years earlier, making him younger on paper, so he would not legally gain control of his inheritance when he should have. She had stretched out her access to his properties, his rents, his life. For years she had told him his father left him almost nothing. She had been collecting from what was his. David looked at his mother like he did not recognize her anymore. "Mama, is this true?" Patricia cried, but not like a broken person. She cried like a person cornered. "I did it for you," she said. Helen wanted control, but nobody in that room believed her anymore. Then Dr. Emeka explained the medical side. Routine tests on the baby had exposed inconsistencies in David's old medical records. According to the records Patricia had always presented, David's genotype was AA, but fresh testing at the hospital showed he was actually AS. That meant Patricia had hidden important medical information for years too. The doctor explained calmly that the results did not create scandal about the baby. They exposed Patricia's long pattern of deception. One lie had led to another: property, age, family history, medical truth. My son had been born into the world and, within hours, had already exposed more truth than the adults around him had been willing to face for years. Jessica tried to speak up then, maybe to defend Patricia or maybe to save herself. Helen cut her off. She had already investigated. Jessica was not who Patricia claimed she was. She was not the polished, upright helper Patricia had brought into the house to support the family. Her record had holes in it. Her history was not clean. She had been useful to Patricia because she was willing to play along. Jessica went pale. Within minutes she was gone. Just like that. When the room finally became quiet again, David turned to me. He came to my bedside, knelt down, and took my hand in both of his hands. "Grace," he said, voice shaking, "I failed you." There was no defense in him anymore. No excuses. No manage her. No pretending not to see. "I left you in danger. I chose peace over truth. I let my mother mistreat you. I let another woman stand where you should have stood. I almost lost you. I almost lost our son. I am sorry." He lowered his head and cried. I looked down at my baby, then back at my husband. That moment was not as simple as forgiveness. A woman does not go through what I went through and just smile because a man finally understands. But something had shifted. For the first time, he was not asking me to endure wickedness in silence. He was naming it. I touched his shoulder and said, "Stand up. Your son needs a father who stands." Then I looked at Patricia. She was smaller somehow, not physically, but in spirit. The power she had carried for years in that house had vanished in one hospital room. "You locked me outside while I was in labor," I said. "You called my child a bastard. You tried to destroy my marriage. I will not curse you, but you will never control my life again." Helen stepped in then and made things official. Patricia would leave the Port Harcourt house. The trust issues would be corrected. David's rights would be restored. The lies would no longer stand because too many people now knew the truth. Patricia sat down heavily as if her own body had betrayed her. For once, silence was stronger than her shouting. That was 6 months ago. Today, I am telling this story from that same house in GRA, but it no longer feels like a cage. The walls have been repainted. The locks have been changed. The air itself feels different. My son, Daniel, is 6 months old now. He laughs easily. He has his father's eyes and my stubborn mouth. Rose still works with us, but not as some frightened girl hiding in corners. She is family to me now, and I make sure she knows she is valued. David did not get that Lagos promotion. He abandoned the training to come back and save me. At first he was bitter about losing the opportunity. Then he started facing what truly mattered. Helen offered him work in her company, and he took it. He comes home earlier now. He bathes our son. He prays with me at night. He has spent months trying to become a different man from the one who left me vulnerable in that house. I do not pretend everything became magically perfect. Healing is not magic. Trust is not automatic. Some wounds close slowly. Some words cannot be unsaid. But change is possible when truth is finally allowed to breathe. Patricia wrote an apology letter from Abuja, a long one, full of tears and regret and requests to see her grandson. David cried while reading it. I told him something simple. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. We send money for her medication when needed, because I refuse to become cruel just because cruelty was shown to me. But she has not stepped back into this house. Jessica tried reaching out once. David blocked her without drama and showed me. That mattered more to me than speeches. And Helen. Helen became the family I did not know I needed. My son calls her Mama Helen now, in the baby way children say names before they can fully speak. She visits often. She brings food, stories, calm, and a kind of strength that fills a room without suffocating anyone inside it. She once told me, "When I saw you outside that gate in the rain, I felt like I was looking at an old version of myself. Maybe that is why God put me on that road that night." I think about that often, because the truth is, I began that night outside a gate, in pain, rejected, humiliated, and treated like I did not belong. But that is not where my story ended. I am inside now. Not just inside a house, inside my own life, inside my own dignity, inside the kind of peace I used to beg for in the dark. If there is one thing I know now, it is this. Surviving does not mean shrinking. Enduring does not mean accepting evil forever. And becoming a mother does not mean you have to lose yourself in the process. Sometimes the night gets so bad you think no help is coming. Then, one car stops, one person sees you, one truth comes out, and everything changes. My name is Grace. She locked me out, but I found my way home.